Good morning, everyone. My name is Jay Clark, and I'm honored to serve on your board of directors. Welcome to this virtual gathering at the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond. Our church was begun in 1833 as a liberal Christian community. We are now a community of many faith journeys and beliefs united in a single covenant of care. Through the years, our congregation has sought and often succeeded in the mission to seek personal wisdom, build beloved community, and serve the purpose of justice in the Richmond community. Thank you for taking time to honor our connections in the ways we have available now. I hope this gathering nourishes your spirit and helps sustain you and your loved ones. You are welcome here as your whole self. We'd especially like to welcome our visitors today from near and far. For more information about our church, we encourage our visitors and members to please see our website, richmondu.org, and you can contact us at membership@richmondu.org. Finally, we'd like to encourage all of you to sign into our worship service 5 to 10 minutes early to catch the pre-show announcements. This is another good way to stay informed about things that are important to our shared community. Once again, welcome to this time of worship.
This morning chalice lighting is by Nancy Reed McKee. Our community knows no boundaries. Our community knows no boundaries. We are not confined by the physical limits of walls, or for that matter, of what often binds us, restricts us, holds us back. We are freer than we know. When we release ourselves and each other from expectations of what is needed for true community, we are here together in space. We see you, we hear you, we love you. and we light this chalice, a beacon of this community, holding us all together, here and now.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond. I'm the Reverend Sue Sinnamon, and I will be with you this morning during our worship. You usually find me leading spiritual practices via Zoom from this space, small groups, curating materials for the family ministry. But this morning, I want to share with you some of the things I've learned in this last 6 months. It's been 6 months since we've been in quarantine, about how to take this journey as a community, even when we're apart. I'm in my home study. When I come down here in the morning, I tell my partner that I'm going to church. And I spend a lot of time down here. My stained glass that I got from gallery, and my books. And so this morning I'm going to share some of the things that I've learned while I've been here in this study the last 6 months, talking to you via Zoom. I'm looking forward to worshiping with you this morning. Welcome.
I know that this is not the modern way, this soul work that I'm recommending, but it has been done for centuries, often under the guise of spiritual practice. This is spiritual practice adapted to the deep, embedded soul, the soul that fires the ordinary elements of daily life and gives them meaning. A human being needs a meaningful life, not necessarily an easy one or a carefree one. Dark nights may remind you to focus again on your soul. They may offer the reason and the context for deeper soul work, which makes you into a more interesting, layered, deep, and loving person. You can't love and relate if you're not a real person. Someone with at least a little depth. That depth doesn't appear by magic or automatically. You have to dig it up by doing some archaeology on your soul, some historical research on your life and background, some close examination of your current desires, fears, and obstacles. Soul work is a lifelong meditation on the events of your life, how they affect you, what you need to do now, not necessarily to be happy, but to be a real person, a unique individual. Serious reading, deep conversations, solid relationships, work that expresses who you are, and work that you love. These are all ways to work your soul. It means taking your life seriously and having some weight as a person, not too light, not giving away too much to other people, loving your soul enough to attend to it and sacrifice for it. This has been a reading from Thomas More's Dark Night of the Soul.
Please join me in a time of meditation and prayer. This morning's meditation is on appreciation. So find a comfortable way to sit on the floor, on your chair, on the couch, so your body can be relaxed, and take a few intentional breaths. Breathing in peace, breathing out relaxation. If you're comfortable, close your eyes or focus them on a spot on the floor, kind of just off center. And in this place of peace and relaxation, call to mind someone you love deeply. And call to mind the qualities they possess that you appreciate. Ways that they're in the world, ways that they relate to you, ways that they see things. What do you appreciate about this loved one? Call to mind this loved one and become aware of all the ways you appreciate them, just the way they are. And silently or aloud, say to them, I appreciate you. And now call to mind a person who you wouldn't consider a loved one, but with whom you have repeated interactions. It could be a neighbor, it could be the cashier at the grocery store or the pharmacy, it could be your mechanic. A person you wouldn't consider a loved one, but with whom you have repeated interactions. And with the loving attention of your mind's eye, form a clear image of this person. And note the specific aspects of them that you appreciate. What do you appreciate about this person? The way they interact with you, the way they interact with others. What do you appreciate about this person? Just the way they are. And say to them, silently or aloud, I appreciate you. And now call to mind a non-human being. It could be an animal, a pet, the birds that eat outside your window when you feed them, a plant. And get a clear picture of this being in your mind. And notice what you appreciate about this non-human being, just the way they are. What do you appreciate about this non-human being, just the way they are? And say to them, silently or aloud, I appreciate you. Now put your hands on your heart and become aware of the loving space in your heart. And notice how appreciation feels in your body. How does your body feel when you express appreciation for your loved ones, for the people that you encounter throughout your day, for the non-human beings, plants and animals you encounter. How does appreciation feel in your body? And gently come back into the space, but stay in your heart space. And let's join in the spirit of prayer. Source of love and light, eternal God, God of many names, bring to our hearts and minds appreciation. Let us appreciate all the ways we've had to adapt in these times, all the new things we've had to learn, all the things we've had to let go of. Let us appreciate the struggles people are going through. Loneliness, isolation, disappointment. Bring into our hearts appreciation for the parents who are homeschooling their children, for the children who are learning to learn virtually, for the grandparents and the aunties and the uncles and other adults that are helping with this. Bring to our hearts appreciation for all the essential workers, all the people we encounter as we go about our new routine. The cashiers, the gas station attendants, the person who delivers our food, the workers in the medical offices. Let us feel appreciation for their contribution, helping us through this difficult time. Open our hearts with appreciation to all the healthcare workers who are on the front lines with this virus, who are helping us learn about the virus and helping us heal from it when we can. Open our appreciation to all the fire workers, to all the people on the front lines out west in the fires. The appreciation for their difficult task. And for the people who have lost so much in these fires. Fill our hearts with appreciation for all the safety workers on the Gulf Coast, helping people survive the hurricane, helping them find safe spaces, helping them from their homes when they need to. Appreciation for the hard work they're doing to make safety possible in difficult times. Open our hearts with appreciation for all the people out there protesting injustice. Climate action, Black Lives Matter, deaths of people that needn't have died. Appreciation for all those people who show up every day to help us learn what it is to be in a beloved community. Fill our hearts with appreciation for this community that shows up for us in our neighborhood groups, in our small groups, online, socially distant. Appreciation for this community of First Unitarian Universalists in Richmond. And fill our hearts with appreciation for Unitarian Universalism that helps us see how to live a meaningful life, serving others and the planet. And fill our hearts with appreciation for ourselves, for our striving to live a meaningful life in this faith community. And let us say to one another, I appreciate you. Amen. Blessed be.
Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, sing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain, singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
Our September Share the Plate partner would be for the food pantry of Majid Bilal, an Islamic community on Church Hill. Our faith community have been friendly and have visited one another, places of worship, for many years now. Support for the Church Hill Food Pantry will help those who are in need in challenging COVID times. This month, we invite people to participate both with financial support and with donation of food, which we will collect on Saturday, September 26th at the church. We hope you will participate as you are able. The offering would now be gratefully accepted.
This story concerns a monastery that had fallen upon hard times. It had once been a great order, but the times had taken the toll. The monks and the sisters had gotten very old, and the abbot was despairing. He thought that it was time to close the monastery. People weren't coming. The people in the monastery, the sisters and the brothers, were whiny, complaining, picking on one another. And so he decided to visit his friend, the rabbi, who maintained a cottage in the woods. The rabbi frequently had wise advice for him, and so he went to the cottage in the woods and asked the rabbi, "What am I to do?" The rabbi made tea, and they sat by the fire, and the rabbi said, "It's the same in my community. The spirit has gone out of the people." And so they read scripture together and cried and wondered what they were to do, as both their communities were shrinking and on the verge of dying. As the abbot began to make his way toward the door to take his leave, the rabbi said, Oh, one more thing," he said. "The Messiah is one of you." The abbot thought, the Messiah is one of us? So he took that with him as he went back to the abbey, to the monastery. When he got to the monastery, the sisters and the brothers all came toward him and said, "What did you learn? What did you learn?" He said, "Nothing." He said, "Except the rabbi said a strange thing. He said the Messiah was one of us." "The Messiah is one of us?" they said. "How could that be?" In the days and weeks and months that followed, every time they crossed one another's path, they thought, well, could that be the Messiah? Could Sister Louise be the Messiah? Sister Louise, who doesn't know how to pray in words that I understand? Or could it be Brother Philip? Brother Philip, who never quite gets the dishes clean? Could he be the Messiah? Or certainly, Brother Thomas is a holy man. He could be the Messiah. Or Eldred, who gets crotchety at times, but he's often right. But surely not Brother John, although he does have the ability to magically be there just when you need him. Could he possibly have meant me? I'm just an ordinary person. Yet supposing he did, supposing I am the Messiah. Oh no, not me. I couldn't be that much, could I? And as they contemplated this in this manner, the old monks, the brothers and the sisters, began to treat each other with extraordinary respect on the off chance that one among them might be the Messiah. And on the off chance that one of them might actually be the Messiah, they began to treat themselves with extraordinary respect. Because of where this monastery was situated, in a beautiful forest, people still came occasionally to visit the monastery, to picnic on its lawn, to wander its paths, to meditate in the chapel. And as they did so, without even being conscious of it, they began to sense this aura of extraordinary respect that now began to surround the old monks and sisters and began to radiate from them and permeate the atmosphere of the place. There was something strangely attractive, even compelling about it. Hardly knowing why, they began to come back more frequently, to picnic, to play, to pray. And then it happened. Some of the younger men began to visit the monastery and started to talk more and more to the old monks. And after a while, one asked if he could join them. And in a few years, the monastery once again had become a thriving order, and thanks to the rabbi's gift, a vibrant center of light and spirituality in the realm. So that's the story of the old abbot and the monastery that was dying. I tell this story this morning because it came to mind when I was thinking about how do I explain this time that we've been struggling with. This time, the 6 months that we've been in forced quarantine and some kind of lockdown, not able to go back to our church home, not able to see friends and family. How do I explain this time to myself? And so I began to look at how my response to this was, what I responded, because I understood it as a dark night, a time of unknowing, a time of uncertainty, a time that we just have to stay with the unknowing because we don't know the outcome. We see all these things happening around us, but we really don't know what's on the other side. we talk about returning to normal, but there won't be a normal to return to. And there's so many things going on at once. Social justice, racial reconciliation, Black Lives Matter, climate change, hurricanes, forest fires, an election. It's hard to imagine how we begin to tackle this if we see them as a series of problems that need to be solved, instead of a time we need to just dwell in, but dwell in a particular way. This quarter, third, from now through Christmas, our theme is Black Lives Matter. And the first month of this theme is creating sacred space and being aware of the sacred space around us. Well, inner sacred space has to be created too. For transformation to take place, it's inner and outer transformation together. So we need to think about how we create that inner sacred space. So my first response to this, way back in March, was to say, well, I'll offer a spiritual practice each day at noon to help people touch that permanent center of themselves. And to help me do it too. To help me remember that I am more than the things that I do. To create a time where I can begin to look inward and find that centered space. That space where I can dwell while everything else whirls around me, without it taking me away with it. So I started the noonday meditations, which are still going on, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Join me any day from noon to about 1 for spiritual practice. And then my next response was to think about how we can create in this time. And so with 2 groups of people, we did the artist way, the spirituality of creativity. And I began to see how these practices are woven into a lot of different fabrics to help us live through these times. This is what psychologists and theologians call liminal space. The dark night is space at a threshold, where we're standing at a threshold. We know what's behind us. We don't know what's in front of us. And we can't solve the problems from the past. We have to be able to connect to this emerging future, to understand what's next for us as a faith community, as individuals, as a country. And liminal space means that rather than looking at this time as a series of problems that need to be solved, we need to know what it is to dwell with it and to walk with one another through this space. And ask questions like, what is this danger doing in our midst? Have we done anything to bring it out of hiding? Does it say anything about the way we live? Do I need to change? Those are the questions that Thomas More, in his practice course, Dark Night of the Soul, poses. What is this danger doing in our midst? Have we done anything to bring it out of hiding? What does it say about the way we live? And do I need to change? Liminal space happens many places in our lives. Birthdays are one place. You wake up one day and it's a new day. And the next day you go back to just another Tuesday or Wednesday. Weddings, child dedications, many of the ceremonies we do in our faith communities are liminal space. Space that recognizes the sacred, both in the inner and the outer parts of us. So this is sacred space that we're living in right now. And to live in this sacred space means that we have to be able to do a few things. What I've discovered in the last 6 months is this liminal space that we're in calls us to live differently, calls us to question, which is why I find it fascinating that we have both the crises and the social justice narratives going on at the same time, because each moves into the other. And what I've discovered that we have to do to create this inner space, this inner sacred space, are 3 things. The first is meditation and spiritual practices, those things that bring us in touch with our deeper self. Gratitude is at the core of it. The appreciation meditation we did this morning. Ways to remind ourselves that we are more than the things that we do. Ways to remind ourselves that we are connected to one another, to our community, to our state, to our country, to this world. And that these connections are what feed us and really what brings meaning into our lives. The reading that John did this morning about the soul, that our need to create meaning. And meditation and spiritual practices really help us sense what that meaning is. And sense where we are in all of that. And brings us to a place where we can notice. One of the things about spiritual practices is that it doesn't really change you radically, although you begin to see things differently or notice things differently. You may notice colors differently. You may notice the clouds. You may notice the birds at your bird feeder. You begin to notice things because it begins to broaden your vision. So the first thing are spiritual practices that help make us make meaning in our lives. The second thing I learned is about what's called morning papers. The Artist's Way talks about morning papers, but other people talk about morning papers as well. Is that every day, or 5 days a week, you get up and you just write 3 pages. You might want to draw, you might want to do other things, but you just write 3 pages. You don't even have to read them. But what it does is begin to help you open up that inner dialogue and understand what you're saying to yourself. So each day you get up and you write 3 pages. And it begins to clarify for you who you are, where you are, what you want, and listening to that inner space within you. So that's the second thing, is to create a discipline where you write 3 pages first thing. I know I have to keep my journal right in a place where that's what I'm going to see first thing when I come downstairs. Otherwise, I forget it. And so you have to forgive yourself when you forget those things. But the second thing to do is to sit down and do morning papers each day. Write 3 pages. And the third thing is to recognize that creativity is a spiritual practice and engage in a creative practice. Making meaning, nurturing our souls, finding a stillness, expressing gratitude and appreciation, and creativity. Those are the 3 things. Finding the stillness, expressing gratitude and appreciation, and creativity. Now, it's not really that hard. One exercise I like suggests you have to promise yourself that twice a day you will say, "Isn't this surprising?" So you find something in your daily activity to just say, "Isn't this surprising?" 2 times a day, that's it. And then you look for the opportunity in them. So isn't this surprising? What things have surprised you that you can say, "Isn't this surprising?" And what's the opportunity in it? What's the invitation in this surprising thing? You see, the dark night is about liminal space, about openings, about creativity. It's like being in a chrysalis, as if you're a butterfly, and you're in that chrysalis until it's time to come out. And in that space, there's tremendous creative energy. Creativity for you to explore. It might be making things, but it also might be looking at a film, reading a book, watching a movie, looking at a piece of art, listening to how it speaks to you. So the creative act is the one that brings clarity to this liminal moments. It helps us see where we need to be next. Living in this kind of space that we're in right now requires different skills and different ways of being. It requires the respect, the treating one another as if they might be the Messiah, and treating yourself as if you might be the Messiah. That's how we create beloved community. The deep respect and love that we have for one another. I'm very pleased to be part of a community like this that has stayed together, even in times that are this difficult. That we've been able to innovate and to be together and find new ways of being together. We certainly have been challenged to adapt quickly. Adapt to learning how to get our groceries delivered. Adapt to cooking when we're used to eating out. Adapt to doing things with smaller circles. Adapt to working from home. And now we have another creative challenge to adapt to how we do church together. We're doing church together by creating family ministry because we want to engage your creative self. So as you create that inner sacred space, we're inviting you to express it in an outward way by creating sacred space in your home, in your yard, by creating sacred space on paper, by creating sacred space on a small altar. But the idea is to create. We want to be able to engage creatively with all that is around us, because that creativity changes us. That is the spiritual journey of creativity. So you start with centering, meditation, spiritual practices, morning papers, gratitude and appreciation, and then creativity is spiritual practice. Now, according to the course that we did, the artist within is like a child, and so is the soul that was talked about in that reading. And so it needs joy. And one way to connect with it is to dance like no one is watching. Put on the music, dance in your house. Sing like no one is listening. You know we can't hear you because the sound is all off. Sing those hymns loud when we come to them in our service. Let the breath come out. And try and find fun things to do to keep your spirits lifted. That's part of what we need to do in these times, this time of unknowing. The other thing we need to do is to relinquish our agenda. I've read a lot about people saying, don't expect to be more productive, to learn new things, to do more things because we have this time. we need to let go of the agenda that we have to try and control the outcome and just be with what is and present to our families, to our partners, to our friends, to our animals and our plants. To be able to stay present to ourselves and our inner sacred space, and to be able to create that outer sacred space that reminds us that we're in relationship to one another and to the planet. That's why we've created family ministry, to help keep us connected to one another as a whole community. Family means everyone. It's people with children, people without children, it's people with partners, it's people who live alone. It is for all of us as this family at First Unitarian Universalist Richmond. And the way we're doing it is to create it online, because those are the tools that we have. So soon you will get an invitation to register for our webpage called Family Ministry. And on the webpage, there will be drop-down menus that will have activities that you can do to learn more about yourself and your family and your friends. You can do it together. There will be little bulletin boards where you can add things that you've created so we can see them and we can share that way. On Wednesday nights, there's Vespers, the first and the fourth Wednesdays of the month. The topic of the month will be introduced, and ways in which people can engage it. So this month we're asking you to create sacred space, learn about sacred space. Next month, the question is, what does it mean to be an ally? And then November is all about courage and commitment. And December, celebrating Black lives. And these drop-down menus are created by our curators. People who find things and say, oh, wouldn't this be interesting, to introduce people and to get them to question and reflect on how to create sacred space, how to create inner sacred space, what it means to be in a dark night, in liminal space. See, when you're in liminal space, you don't worry about the future. You just stay in the space that you're in. The future takes care of itself because you're present to the moment and present to the movement in your lives and others' lives. So that's why we invite you to think about ways that you can just be in the moment. Be with uncertainty and unknowing. Let go of your agenda of how things had to be. And just be present to yourself, to your feelings, to your thoughts, to be grateful, express gratitude for what is, and to be appreciative of one another. Easy, isn't it? Just remember 3 things. Your spiritual practice that helps you touch your inner core. Your morning papers that helps you explore what you think and feel. And then creativity is a spiritual practice. To know that creativity is what will help us unfold these times and be with wherever we need to be as we journey together as a community. Because there is a relationship between social change and transformation. We change ourselves and the world will change. Hard to believe, but it's true. It starts with us. So deepening self-awareness and changing ourselves is what will give us the tool to transform the world, to make it the kind of world that we want to be in. So amen, blessed be, may it be so. And I can't wait to see the creativity bursting from this community.
sun is slowly sinking. The day is nearly done. The darkness falls around us, and we must carry on. The darkest hour is just before dawn. You ask which way to go. The light within will guide your way. The darkest hour is just before dawn. Sometimes my burden is heavy, and I know not where to go, but I find a peace in darkness, yes, a peace down in my soul. The darkest hour is just before dawn. You ask which way to go. The light within will guide your way. The darkest hour is just before dawn. The darkest hour is just before dawn.
Let us extinguish our chalice. And let the hymn be our benediction, and sing as if no one is listening. Sing out loud.